Um, so I want to welcome everyone again who joined our AMA. We have a very cool special guest, Jerrick Warren. And what's cool about Jarek is he was one of the first people who joined Career Karma before we even had an app. And before we even had an app, Career Karma was basically just Arthur Rubin and I doing a lot of phone calls, answering a lot of text messages, doing a lot of video calls just like this, because we didn't have an app and we were building it, but people already started coming to us like Jarek, and they wanted to break in, and we're like, we're going to help you break in. And so he was also one of the first people in Career Karma to attend a boot camp based on our guidance. And he has a very interesting story because in the process, he also had a son. And so there's a lot of parents on this call who probably can relate what it's like when you're switching careers and you're taking care of a baby and you also got bills to pay. So we're going to dive into all of that on tonight's AMA. But first, I want to say welcome, Jarek.
Hey, guys. So very happy to be here. Career Karma, what's up, gang? I see you guys, Christy, Larry, Angelo, just a couple of people, Courtney. I see a couple of people on the thing. Nice to be here, guys. And
Jarek, you're muted, by the way.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And Jarek, you know the drill. You've been on a lot of our AMAs before. Yeah. You're one of the fam, so it's not like you're some tech insider. No. You just got a job, and you started it in November, right? So you're fresh in the job. You went through the job search, so you know exactly, you know how hard it was, but you also have a lot of things that worked for you that didn't. We're going to unpack a lot of that on the AMA.
Sure.
Can you share with people, maybe let's start with your job now. Like, what is it that you do, and where do you work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a mobile developer at a company called Gemini. It's in Manhattan, New York City. And what it is a cryptocurrency exchange. I don't know if anybody remember the movie called The Social Networks. These two twin brothers, twins, that sued Mark Zuckerberg. But now they're like Bitcoin billionaires. And so they have a company called Gemini. Anybody who's in the crypto space, you may have heard of Coinbase. So it's kind of the same fintech company like that.
Awesome. And it's very innovative because blockchains and Bitcoin, it's only been around for the last 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. My job specifically is I work on the mobile app, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yep.
Yeah. And that's also interesting because there's a lot of people that come to us. And when you came to us, I think initially we told you to study JavaScript, but you were very, very adamant about learning iOS.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Now you're working as a mobile developer, but you're working with JavaScript every day.
I know.
Because you're doing React Native. So what is it, like, what kind of work, like, what does an engineer do if someone is just joining for the first time and they're interested in tech careers? Can you kind of break down what your first weeks on the job have been?
Sorry if there's a little bit of lag. Yeah, so to answer your first question, the job basically, well, first of all, let me back up and say, I definitely studied JavaScript at the beginning, and then I switched to iOS development. I did that with Lambda School, and iOS developments for the iPhone, the iPad, Mac OS, and iPad OS, and tvOS, sorry. And that was great, but the job required me to learn React Native. So basically, any job that you get, just know that you're going to have to learn a whole new stack. Even if you learn JavaScript or you learned Android or React or iOS, you're going to have to learn exactly what they do. So every day on the job, we have a stand-up and we talk about some of the tickets that need to be done. And they give me a piece of the ticket to basically do. At this point, I'm basically making new features on the app. I'm basically clearing up some bugs that are there. I'm basically kind of going through and deleting or adding, small things, but are very important things. And each day I get more and more and more responsibility to do things. So it's pretty fun. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what the tickets are.
Yeah, that's a great description. And having having gone through this process of starting your career transition, and then going through a boot camp, now getting a job. Um, can you tell people, like, take us back to the moment last year when you decided to actually do this seriously? Because
Yeah.
I remember that moment, like, and for you it might have been a different moment, but I think everyone starts out with just discovery, and they're just like, should
Yeah.
I do this? Is it possible? And when did you realize that, hey, I'm gonna cut the cord and just go all in on this?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely spent some time going through. No voice, please.
Um, I think I'll take care of the comment. Let me.
Okay, sure. I definitely spent a lot of time, guys, like going through YouTube videos, reading a lot of stuff, free code camp, for people who are interested in iOS, doing like 100 days of Swift or 100 days of code, or even the 21 CK challenge, different things of that nature. What was really interesting was trying to find a school that had what I was looking for. And this is where Timur and Ruben kind of came in. I was beginning to go with Hack Reactor. At the beginning, they had an SSP program. And then Timur told me about Lambda School. It's not necessarily endorsement, but we can answer how that worked for me. It worked great for me. But I think I cut the cord because I finally was able to find a group of people that were passionate about what I was passionate about. And then also I was able to build something on my own. I think it was one tutorial where I was able to build, maybe, it might have been from Udemy actually, where I just spent the $9.99 and downloaded the course and did like 3 lessons. And I was able to build like a weather app. And I was like, oh my God, like, can I actually build stuff? Like, what else can I do? I need instruction, right? I can't like just keep on doing these videos by myself. I get like in a trap. I need somebody to push me. And I need to ask people who are doing the same thing, like, how can I do this? So that's when it finally clicked. It was like, okay, let me just go ahead and do this full time.
Yeah, that's a good. I did a coding bootcamp myself back in 2015, and I can definitely remember
Yeah.
the feeling of actually building something. And even though you're following a tutorial and they're basically feeding you line by line, like word by word, what you need to do. Once you actually build an app, like a simple app, you actually get a feeling of like, wow. You take a breath and you're like, I did this. Like, what else can I do? Um, in a second, we're gonna open it up for questions. But Jarek, can you tell us a little bit? So you're in Manhattan now, working as an
Yeah.
engineer.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your background. Like,
Yeah.
like everyone runs into challenges along the way. Like, what is your background? What are some of the challenges you had to overcome to get to where you are today?
Sure, man. Yeah, that's a crazy story. So this goes back for me all the way to college. So my freshman year of college, I studied computer science, and it didn't really latch on to me. I didn't really find it to be fun or exciting. And then I studied biology, guys. I like did all the biology labs, plant biology, did the chemistry classes, did everything that a biology major is supposed to do. And then after college, I actually applied to medical school, and I didn't get into medical school the first time. I had to take the MCAT again the first time. Then I went to medical school, and then I had to leave for a couple of reasons. I go deep into that on the podcast. It's a really, really cool story. Long story short, I had a couple of deaths in the family. My mother died, my father died, my sister died. It was really, really tough. And I went back and forth. And in fact, at some point, which is not in the podcast, I actually kind of created a small little business to help doctors and dentists like build web pages for like the offices. And even at that point, I wasn't touching the code. It was a stack called HTML5, where if they had a web page, you can actually like port it over to like a mobile device. It's not as popular anymore, but it was a big deal back then. And so I tried to do some of that stuff to kind of put some food on the table. I was in school. It was difficult, man. I mean, I failed all the time, right? I failed over and over and over and over, but I always had this love for like technology. And I always had this love for health. And so, if I wasn't in class doing health or studying medicine, I would kind of like sneak away in DC. Washington, D.C. is went to school, Howard University, and they would have some tech conferences, and I would go and visit those just to kind of give me like a boost. So I was in between trying to figure this whole thing out. And so finally, when medical school was over, I went through all this experience with my family. I decided to like really just kind of focus in on the technology side. It's a little bit more innovative, a little bit more my speed. And I just love it. Yeah. Oh, Timur, I think you're muted.
Yep, I was muted.
Yeah.
I just shared Jerrick's episode in the chat, his podcast episode. So he goes into a lot about his personal story, but also tips, strategies, and you can get a lot of, there's a lot of great content on the episode. But I think everyone came here because they want to actually ask Jerrick questions.
Yeah.
Before we actually jump into questions for Jerrick, I just want to shout out Anthony, because he actually got a job this week or last week. And he's also self-taught. And I know going through a boot camp was challenging. I can't imagine what it's like teaching, just going straight on your own, grinding it out, going through the job search on your own. And I see he also has a son or a daughter.
I see him. What's up?
Not here, so want to give him a big shout out, Anthony. Thanks for tuning in. But yeah, let's ask Jarek questions. Please introduce yourself. Maybe mention how long you've been with Career Karma, what your goals are, and then ask away.
Hey, I'm jumping. So hey everyone, I'm Steven. I am not in Career Karma. I actually been following the Breaking Into Startups podcast or platform for a little over 2 years, I believe. So funny thing, I'm a recruiter. I'm a tech recruiter at Gemini. I'm close to Jarek. Okay. Yeah, so Jarek was one of the, to be honest, other Black people I noticed who got onboarded. So I was like, yo, what's up? Sat down with him, got some coffee. I was like, oh, this dude is cool. And then we just, chatted about our stories. And he told me that he spent some time out in SF, went to Howard, and, ultimately broke into becoming a software engineer via, of course, going to the Lambda school and also the relationships that he had with you all. I would say it's a question for you, Jarek, specifically.
Yeah.
I would say through your job search process, what was the toughest truth that you had to swallow?
That's a good question. I didn't recognize how difficult the job search was going to be on my physical health. I'm one of those people that when I get really focused, I kind of zone in and I kind of let a lot of things go. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't drinking water. I wasn't eating properly.
You wasn't drinking water?
I was just focusing, man. Like I was just kind of going in there. And the reason is that this kind of goes out to everybody that has children. That when or just jobs, right? Just responsibilities. Like when you have time to apply, you only have a little bit of time. But it takes time to apply, then respond to emails and everything like that. So I learned that I was a little bit unbalanced at the beginning, and I had to set myself a schedule, and I had to do it in sprints. So each hour, I would just dedicate 50 minutes, no more than 50 minutes. Maybe it was just 30 or 45 minutes to just write the email, do what I have to do. I made a Trello board and I made it as organized as possible. So my biggest truth is that I was not prepared at the beginning. And what I didn't expect is that you only get better at interviewing the more you do it. And the more rejection letters you get back, and the more separate opportunities, and sometimes you pass them and sometimes you fail. You have to really everything focused. And then make sure that you talk to people, have a community, write down your journal, get online to Career Karma, email your friends, let people know what you're doing, because you're going to need that encouragement.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Appreciate you. That's why.
No problem, man.
Hey, Jarek, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I'm Luis. I'm from New York as well. So I actually live in the Bronx. And I have a 4-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
You may not be at that point yet. I know. How old is your son?
He's 20 months. So
20 months.
when I was applying, he was about, I started applying when he was about 12 months old, just a year old. Yep.
Well, I mean, mine's 4 years old, but I guess it kind of still applies, which is that I'm pretty sure you had it when you were going through the bootcamp and everything. You want to spend as much time as possible with your son because you want to be a good father, but also you know you got all of these things going on at the same time. How do you keep a balance on your schedule between, being a great father, being there for your child, being there for the mom of your child as well, depending on the situation. And how are you there for your family, but at the same time, okay, this is what I have to do. This is the time for me to get things done. I can't get distracted.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So this is a time for all parents, especially us men, to kind of man up and open up the lines of communication. So I'm a single dad, and my son's mother and I, we literally had to sit down and just kind of put it all on the table, and put down timelines and put down expectations and things that we were going to do and we were not going to do. Now, the way it worked for me is that if I knew that I had to take time away to study or go to school or learn this tech thing, that was going to be my time. And then taking care of my son would be our time together. And I always tried to make sure that I took my son to the park. We did things like swimming lessons. It wasn't just kind of like sitting at home as much as possible. We would actually try to do things to try to create these memories. Now, my son isn't with me in New York City. He's actually in San Francisco. And so, I mean, being a good dad, I'm not even there right now. And that sucks, okay? But I'm so glad you asked that question because it reminded me of all the memories that I've made by doing these different things. We did swimming class. We did like the My Gym. We went to the park a lot. I took him to the zoo. We did things that were very, very active. And so we could have like father-son time. The second part of the communication thing is really honesty, right? If you can't do something, then say that you can't do it. It's really tough to say that you have time to spend with your child and then you don't actually have it. So, you may not be able, well, me, I wasn't able to always spend time with my friends and go and hang out and do stuff because I had now school and learning this and then time with my child, and I prioritize that. So I think communication is huge. Working with your partner, or if you're a single dad, it's just by yourself. If you can get a babysitter or even somebody that will watch the child while you're doing your thing. But then being honest, and then don't be hard on yourself as well. This is not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? And so when you're learning something new, it's going to take time to like really understand it. And you will be frustrated undoubtedly at the beginning, maybe for a week or two, but that's kind of how it goes. And then after a while, a light bulb goes off and you understand something, and then you try something else and you're confused again, right? So be kind to yourself, communication, and just have some honesty there.
Great question.
I hope I can ever get to meet you in person. Thank you.
Yeah, man, you too, Liz.
Yeah, and I want to just emphasize that a lot of people that come to us, they're like, where's the coding? I want to learn how to code, right?
Yeah.
And in all honesty, like a career, like if you just want to learn how to code just so you can like just code, it's different than if you want to get a job and you want to get a job fast. And when you're setting up a plan to go career transition, it's literally kind of like climbing Everest, which is why we make that analogy a lot. And when you go climb Everest, you don't do it alone, right? You need allies, you need teammates. You also do a lot of research up front, right? Make sure that you're prepared. You also there's also like a strategy of how you get to the top. You might have to go up, then get your body acclimated, then go down, and then go up again. And so the reason we have these AMAs is people drop out of boot camps, people drop out of the process, not because they can't learn JavaScript. They drop out of schools because they don't have, they should have done part-time, but they try to do full-time. They drop out because they didn't figure out their schedule and time management, and that becomes a big deal. And so these calls are very important because you're speaking to someone who's been through this process before. And so, yeah, just feel free to ask whatever questions you want to Jarek. Who else? Let's see.
Hi, Jarek. Can you hear me?
Hey, Christy, I can hear you.
Hi. I was really encouraged. It seems like I'm hearing a lot of similarities in people's stories, which is that you go and you try and you fail and you fail and you fail and you pick yourself up and you start again. I personally, I love making mistakes because it's a chance to see something that I don't know. It's a chance to learn. However, I've worked in a lot of different industries, and there's usually a lot of mistakes that are worth making, that are great to make. I didn't know if you had any mistakes that you just could have done without, any pitfalls to avoid in the general scheme of things.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So, how can I say this? I think I struggled for years because I was not, what's the word correct to use? I wasn't adamant about finding people who were like-minded, okay? I thought that getting into tech and coding, it was a mystery. Like, how do you do this? And I was shy on Twitter. I had friends who kind of were in the industry, but I didn't pick up the phone and call them. I always liked what technology could bring to the table for any industry. But I wasted a lot of time really just trying to be a hermit, right? I would go to these conferences, right? I would go to these conferences, meet a lot of people, but I'll never call them. I would never send the emails. I would never reach out to them. And they would say, hey man, come on through. I was like, man, you gotta be, I guess where I was even just like a year ago or even before, like I thought it was like this zenith, or like this paramount type of thing to be a software engineer. And they would always be like I'm saying now, come on, you're learning as you go. I don't know everything. And I'm used to other careers, right? And like medicine, for example, where you have to know. You have to if you don't know something, then it's bad. Technology and engineering is totally opposite. It's about thinking the right way, okay? And trying that out, and if it doesn't get to the solution, trying another way and another way. You have to fall in love with thinking about solving problems, right? Not falling in love with the solution. I'll give you a prime example. My job day to day at this beginner level is to take care of bugs that people thought were solutions maybe 2 months ago. If it was a solution, then why am I debugging it? That's not how it works. There's always something to learn. There's always something to understand. That's number one. Number two, I was hard on myself because of the first thing. I thought I need to know everything. So on one hand, it was great because I wanted to make sure that I got the understanding of how to, for example, if there's networking, then I how to make an API call, and I got that down. But at the same time, the first day I had the job, I did the exact same thing at Gemini, and I wrote this long code, and he was like, we just do this. And it was 3 lines. I mean, sorry, it was 1 line and 3 letters. You're right. So the idea is that, once again, fall in love with solving problems, fall in love to try to do things and learn. Don't be too hard. Don't feel like you don't know it. Don't feel that you're not prepared. Don't feel like you're not good enough. Don't feel like this is beyond you, or that you came from a place that nobody taught you anything, and this is just so amazing that you can't get there. And also don't be on the other side where you came from school and you went to college and everything like that, and then they start teaching you a different way. Don't shy away from that other end either. Be humble and learn and just recognize this is different than anything you've done before.
Thank you.
No problem. Hopefully that answered it.
No, that's like, I feel that, yeah, that hit it right on the head. Great advice.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you very much.
Thanks, Christy.
Yeah. Let me also add that a lot of the stuff you're going to be doing in this career transition, it's not going to feel natural to you. It's going to feel a little awkward, a little like almost too aggressive. Like when we say email 5 people a day, you might feel like they're busy. Like, what are they, like, what business do I have emailing these people? But it works. And it gets you almost have to be a little selfish and think to yourself, like, today I need to get a job. Once I get a job, I'm going to be able to provide for my family. I'm going to be able to help other people break in. But you have to, taking it to that airplane example, if the plane is going down, you got to put the mask on yourself first. And that goes also for like the time that you have to spend learning versus maybe time you have to spend with your friends, family, your significant others. I think on these calls, we give a lot of advice. Some of the biggest advice is actually super simple. And the biggest advice we give people is when you're in this process, email 5 people a day, like email people as much as you can so you can build these relationships. Even if you had to do nothing else but email, at least you're emailing, you're creating a pipeline, you're reaching out to people. Just a question to all of you. So last week we did a job search workshop with David Harris, who is an App Academy graduate. Did anyone email him? I'm just curious. Has anyone? Because if you did, I want to shout out who you are. Has anyone emailed them to build those relationships? Okay. And that's okay if you didn't, because again, it doesn't come natural, right? And the reason I'm also putting emphasis on this today is that if you think about Career Karma, we bring guests every week, like Jarek, like Keisha, like Alexis. And so if you just go to one of these meetings a week, right, and you just email the person after, that's going to be 56 people, right, who are just like you, who at some point were outside of tech, that now you have in your network. And if you build those relationships, it's going to come a long way. So on that note, Jarek, in terms of your job search, what did you find the most helpful in terms of getting you phone screens, interviews, and so on?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a good segue. Actually, these AMAs were super helpful. I emailed Bria. I think I emailed Iris, and I'm still in communication with them today.
Can you share which companies they worked at and like what was the topic of the AMA?
Yeah, I think Bria worked for Google, and she still works for Google. When she actually is here in New York, but when she did her AMA, she was in Southern California. And so she's a great resource. Her name is Bria Sullivan. She actually has like a whole kind of outline of how to approach the job search and like how to like reformat your resume. But she was helpful. So I started here, right? Start with the AMAs. And then during the job search, I kind of go into it in the podcast, but I had this 3-pronged approach where I would email the CEO, I would email the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer. Funny enough, I actually had a meeting with the Chief Technology Officer today, right? Just like one-on-one, they kind of take you aside and you have, man, that was kind of crazy. We had coffee, but it was good. He's a good guy. But it's just like, woo, thanks for the job. And then I would email a person like myself at my level, who's been at the company for about a year or two. And you would think that, engineers who are just at a new job don't have time to answer emails, but you'd be surprised because a lot of the job, at least your first 5 months or 4 months, there's a lot of like just getting used to it, right? It's just like learning when you're starting now. Like it's a lot. It seems overwhelming, getting kind of confused, right? when you start a new job, like that's exactly how it is. Even if you did really, really well, or you think that you're some kind of superstar, I guarantee you go into like Facebook or Apple or whatever job you get, Microsoft, whatever it is, and you still feel like you don't know anything because you don't, right? What they do, like for example, I don't want to go off tangent, but if you were to work at Facebook, no matter what language you learn, they put you like in a university setting for like 6 to 8 weeks and teach you what Facebook does. Right? It's like a classroom setting. You have like your book and you're like writing stuff down. So it's really rewarding to come and do an AMA after your first 4 weeks and answer emails and answer questions because it keeps you grounded, right? And it also keeps you hungry. You can actually see the new engineers such as myself can see like a little bit of progression because you go into work every day and you're frustrated and you're confused. You don't know, right? So emailing is a big deal. Going back to the three-pronged approach, the person that gives you the referral also gets incentives, right? So at Gemini, it could be a couple $1,000s if the person's interviewed and they get hired, right? So like that's another reason why you want to email somebody that's in the first or second year, right? They're trying to get promoted. They're trying to get more money in the bank. That's another thing as well. So it's really kind of going back to what Timur said, it's going to feel uncomfortable, guys, right? Because you don't know the person. It's a company that you think is like huge. You see them everywhere. You see ads and you say, oh, this is too big for me. Nah, it's the total opposite. Like they have room for you. They want to know who you are. They want to hear from you. They want to help you on your journey. Most engineers are like that, to be honest.
Awesome, Jarek. And we actually have we have about 30 minutes left on this AMA. So I want to bring it back to people on this call. What questions do you have for Jarek? And don't be afraid. Oh, go ahead, Courtney.
So the only reason why I'm asking this question is because technology is changing each and every day. What was yesterday may not be today. So question for Jarek, where do you see yourself in 5 years now that you broke in?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I have a passion for other things that are not in tech. And I think that's actually good for people to have. So if your passion is education, your passion is art, if your passion is, I can think of anything, music, whatever, stay close to those things and see how technology can help you bring those things out and influence that area as well. Something that keeps you passionate and happy. So for me, I like building teams. I like working with people, and I like noticing how people are good in the area and bringing that out of them, and then synergizing them and building a product. So if I had to say my dream job in 5 years, I would want to be building teams on mobile development, building apps for companies. I'd still love health, so it'd be great to be part of a health firm. I'm in finance right now, so if I build a team to build an app for a finance company, that would be great as well. But I like the collaboration and in the interdisciplinary method was with people coming from different backgrounds and they bring their best to the table from the different backgrounds.
Yeah, that's good because I actually work for one of the biggest cell phone companies, and the running joke at my job is when customers call in, they say, oh, I need to know how to do X, Y, and Z. And everybody in the background say, oh, there's an app for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's where these ideas come from, right? So just yesterday, I was walking, it was raining or snowing, and somebody said, you should make an app that shows, it's New York City, so there's a lot of scaffolding, right? And you have to put up your umbrella and then put it down, put it up. They said I should make an app that shows what all this scaffolding is in New York, just in case you forget your umbrella. You can just walk through the scaffolding and get to your destination. It may be longer. I was like, what? But the whole point is that, art imitates life, right? And so build something that you're passionate about. It may seem like a silly idea, but somebody thinks that's useful, right? So
right. Facebook was silly in the beginning. Look at it now.
Exactly. So
I got a question for you, and I want to say congrats too on your new position.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I just want to know because I recently just got hired as well. as a
Awesome.
software developer. Thank you.
Cool.
So I don't start until January 6th, and I pretty much, studied their stack or whatnot. But there are a couple additional things that I don't necessarily know that well. I think, and I remember you talking about like going into the new position, you're not going to know everything. Do you
Right.
just have any like tips, like for my first day,
Yeah.
what I should like, be looking out for, or how I should be, trying to go in and basically prepare for that first day?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually asked the CTO this of Gemini, what should a new engineer be concerned about, like in the first couple of days, first couple of weeks? And the CTO said, show up early and leave late, right? The first week is really not about producing the most code or like showing that you can do things or like whatever. You're gonna get there, you can get your new computer, you're gonna sign on, get a whole bunch of passwords, but they just want to know that you're a hard worker, right? They want to know that you're somebody that they can rely on. So full disclosure, I studied iOS, and Gemini hired me to do JavaScript, knowing I need zero JavaScript, right? So that gives you an idea of how companies are confident that, one, they're confident in you that you can learn and that they would teach you and get you up to speed, right? But nobody wants to work with somebody that's kind of, how can I say, a bore to work with, right? Or doesn't ask questions. So that's the second thing. I ask questions all the time. One thing that Gemini really appreciated about me asking questions is that it helped them recognize where their onboarding process needed a little bit of help. So I was hired, and then 2 weeks later, we had 2 more hires. I actually wrote the onboarding for them based on stuff that needed to be like done better, right? So it's one of those things, right? They're really just kind of figuring like how your mind works, right? And as you teach them and show them how your mind works by being diligent, showing up on time, and just working hard and being present, asking questions, then soon you can raise your hand, right, and ask for like a special project. And then at that moment, you can put like a little spice on it, put like a little flavor on it, and like come up to speed. But the first couple of weeks, don't even worry about it. Like just show up, ask questions, attend the meetings, take notes. And I'm saying like really like no question is a dumb question. You may think that you know how it works, but it's really like how they do it. This is the last point. I'm used to writing a lot of comments in my code. In the code base of Gemini, there's 0 comments. So you're talking to somebody who knows no JavaScript, that has no idea because they don't comment their code. So if they ask me to do something and I don't say I don't know, they're going to assume that I'm just not up to speed, right? So being honest and just knowing that you can talk to people is like number one.
Jerrick,
Cool. Yeah. That's
let
cool.
me ask you a
Thank you.
follow-up. Did you find any like people on your team who are like who you can go to if you have problems? Like, how does that work? Because I think everyone sets a very high expectation for themselves that like someone asks you to do something and you just go and do it. But in reality, a lot of these teams have people to bring you up to speed. So in your case, who are these people?
Yeah. So actually, it's the person that gave me the referral. His name is Charlie. Who gave me the referral that I basically talk with him every single day. Now, when he actually needs to get stuff done, then I actually call somebody on the front end team and like kind of walk over to their desk, and they can help me as well. But it's very interactive, right? It's very interactive. With React Native, you use a lot of dependencies, and I didn't know what these dependencies are. I don't know what they do. I don't even know like how they work. I don't even know anything about it, but they've been using it for such a long time that a very simple explanation can go a long way. So you want to choose a few people that you can find. Also, there's ask the company for. Most companies have educational resources. Like we use Front Masters a lot for our stuff, which is a online learning tool. Udemy, a lot of companies have Udemy. A lot of companies have book subscriptions. We use O'Reilly and things of that nature. So be prepared on your first couple of weeks to literally do a couple small things, but then also read a lot and kind of get some dummy apps going as well.
Hey,
Awesome.
Jarek.
Thanks, Jarek.
Yeah. Hey, Daniel.
So I have a question in how dealing with so many languages.
Mhm.
For example, I've done a lot with Java, Swift, and JavaScript, and sometimes I can't help feeling like I'm relying on a resume that I've done JavaScript because I'm gonna like, for example, I've done like just 1 year with it, and I spent a lot of time with Swift, so I get overwhelmed with that. I'm not sure how you go about that.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So tailor every resume for the job, right? And put, like, for example, I knew that Gemini was doing React Native. And so I said front end and back end because that's what I did with Swift. I didn't specify the language. When they asked me if I did JavaScript or React Native, I told them no, but I am familiar with the design patterns. Like for iOS, it's usually MVC, model view controller, and different things of that nature. So it's just when you get through the phone interview, which is like the first step, just be agreeable, be nice, be excited, and then you'll get to the other parts where you can kind of go deeper into what you know. Many times it's not, they don't really care what language you learned. What they really care about, I think this is one of the reasons why I got the job, was on the fly, my manager now asked me what I didn't like about the app, the Gemini app. And I wasn't even prepared. But I opened up that app and I think I listed like 15 things that were terrible with it. I was like, this is bad, I would change this, I would change this, I would change this, I would change this, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, okay. And then he showed me what they were working on, and it was almost like a direct fit, right? Now, he asked me, do you know how to do any of these things in JavaScript? I was like, no. He was like, it's all good. Like, your passion will teach you how to do it. So that's number one. Number two, when you're learning all these different languages, just choose something that is comfortable for these technical challenges, right? You will learn that as you're going through the interview process, they'll ask you to do and solve certain problems. I learned Swift, and so I did a lot of my coding challenges in Swift, but there's not a lot of videos to kind of go through the leak code solutions and to go through HackerRank in Swift. So I had to learn Java, right, to know what they're doing and then translate that into Swift, right? So I learned Swift, I learned Java, I learned Objective-C, and at a certain point, I was just kind of agnostic in terms of my languages. It doesn't necessarily matter as much as you think. So I guess like that's the answer to the question. Do your coding challenges and your take-home exams in the language that you feel comfortable with, but don't stress too much about which particular stack. Once again, the way that a company uses JavaScript is going to be completely different from the next company that uses JavaScript and Swift, right? Like, they just want to know your problems. You can problem solve.
All right, thanks.
No problem.
Hey, Jarek.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people on the call who probably are wondering, like, should they do full-time, part-time?
Yeah.
I think when when we met last summer and you were learning how to code, I think at some point Lambda School offered a living stipend, and you were one of the first people to take advantage of that. Now, I'm not sure if Lambda still offers it, but there's a number of other schools like Thinkful that actually they do the living stipend. Can you talk about the living stipends for people who are just like unsure how they can afford being in school and not working as their career transitioning?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I imagine that there's some people who are working right now who are just a little bit interested, kind of flirting with the idea. I imagine some people on the call studied a little bit more and actually want to dive in. And I imagine that other people who are completely thinking about transitioning, like seriously transitioning from another field into this field. So full-time or part-time? I would say that if you are going to go full-time, okay, you need to sit down and literally write a schedule for like those months. that you're going to be doing it, and really see like how it's going to affect your finances, how it's going to affect your relationships, how it's going to affect your child care, how it's going to affect with your family, because that's a big deal. Okay. You're going to need time to really kind of focus on that, save money or anything like that. We'll get to the stipend in a second. But those who are doing part-time, this is even more important in terms of the schedule. I went to the Lambda meetup just on Sunday, and there were a lot of part-time people who were there, and they told me that part-time is hard because as you're going through it, you still have to work, and a lot of people drop out. Now, this is something that's like so important to me, and I'm passionate about, because my income literally increased a lot by doing something like this. I just had to stay focused. And for people who are part-time, it's very, very important that you keep like the eye on the prize, right? It doesn't matter how long it takes, but you just can't stop. Like, keep going. So talking about the stipend, I got $1,000 a month with Lambda. Everybody's stipend's a little bit different, but that actually helped me pay for diapers, actually helped me pay for some of my bills. And I was able to create a very small budget to make sure that I was able to at least kind of, meet my needs. I asked family and friends, but I did it full time. And so people knew exactly what I was doing. And I took time. Like, I didn't pass my first week. I did everything over. So I did all the curriculum for iOS, and then I did it over and became a TA or a PM and did it again and taught it. And then I taught like intro to iOS for a little bit, and then I did the job search. So it took about a year for me, but I was committed to that. And I had about 10 months that I scheduled, and it took about 12. Now, not everybody is going to have that kind of schedule. Some boot camps are shorter, but Lambda is remote, so it takes some time. But I would have not made it those 2 extra months that I didn't plan for if I didn't make a schedule at the beginning. So the ISA is great. I know that you guys may know what an ISA is. You don't have to pay up front.
Can you
Definitely.
explain income sharing and maybe use yourself as an example? Just so people get it, because I think some might not even realize that it's a viable path in their situation.
Yeah, so this is kind of like really, really important. So the ISA is called an income share agreement, and you don't have to pay anything up front. So the idea is that if a boot camp costs $30,000, like Lambda, or if it even costs like $20,000, you sign a document that says, I will attend the boot camp, I'll go to the classes, I'll do my best with the homework and the curriculum, and I won't pay anything back to the school unless I get a job in technology, right? So that allows you to go to school and not really have to worry about a bill. Now that I am employed, I am paying Lambda School back a portion of my my salary, but I didn't have to pay anything for a full year. So I got a full year of tuition free, essentially. And then not only that, I encourage everybody who's on this call, since you guys are in an AMA with Career Karma, to once you learn, give back. So I did Lambda School, and then they actually paid me to be a PM or a TA for them. So essentially, whatever the cost was for me to do Lambda School, I cut it in half, because the other half of Lambda School, I'm learning some more and I'm getting paid to do it.
That's a great explanation, Jarek. And I think for people applying to coding bootcamps, especially the ones on Career Karma, we specifically selected schools that have income sharing. And I think people join Career Karma coming from not just the backgrounds, but some people have criminal record, some people might have bad credit. And I'm just gonna say it now that don't let those things hold you back. There's always a path for you to go forward. And it's important because you might be applying to one school and they accept you, but they reject you because of your credit. And I speak to people every week who tell me that they stopped going forward because one school rejected them. And the reality is that there's a lot of schools that do income sharing. Some schools don't even look at your credit. And on top of it, there are schools that don't look at the fact if you have a criminal background or not. They just want to help you, And as you're doing your research, make sure you schedule time to speak to each school. And the last thing I'll say about income sharing is that each income sharing is unique to each school. So if you get rejected from one school for income sharing, don't give up. Keep applying to other schools. Also, make sure you read the terms. Each school has different terms. Some say if you make $50,000 or more, some say 40,000. Some say you need to get a job that's tech related to pay back. Some say it's any job. So as you're doing your research, make sure that you interview the school as much as they're interviewing you.
Absolutely.
And, yeah.
No, Timur, I kind of want to go into I know time is short, but I see all these questions in the comments. I'm reading these guys.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to address some of these, if that's all right. So Edu, I appreciate the comment about the loss. Yes, family is important. You know, the idea is that you just want to be your best self. You know, everybody goes through tragedies. There are people who've gone through like divorces, who've gone through deaths in their family, who've gone through like sickness and everything. Guys, like stay focused. You're not the only one. Like encourage yourself, encourage other people. Make sure you have a good community. Interviewing, it's right. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. Thanks, Gil, Joe. Reggie, I see your question here. We kind of talked about, you know, making sure that, I would take as long as I needed to understand what I felt was important. It's not about being perfect. It's really about understanding it. And the funny thing is that if you're working on a problem, you may come back like in a week or two and may click. You just may need to pause, right? So you learn that about yourself, right? Like you worked really hard and you burn out, take a walk, get up, run around, just put it on the shelf for a little bit and, you know, come back. I did a presentation on a feature today that took me 2 weeks. I was confused for 2 weeks on this particular feature, right? But I got it done with a lot of help, right? And so now it's my job to kind of go through and make sure I understand it for the next time. And it gets easier. Let's see, I'm looking for another question.
Jarek, can I actually jump in? Or were you going to ask a question? I think someone just unmuted themselves.
Sure.
Yeah. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay. I know the time is short, so I thought I'd just bomb in and ask a question very fast.
Sure.
By the way, thank you guys very much for doing this.
No problem.
I'm a pharmacist, but I went to residency because I had plans to do pharmacy informatics.
Yeah.
But being year one residency is not. I don't see that path of becoming a pharmacy informatics because my long-term goal is being able to make an app or health information website where patients are able to carry their health information where they go to.
Yes.
So that if you leave from one doctor and you go to a different doctor, they have your information. And I know there is something going on out there, but I have not seen anyone that I can, like a mentor to mentor me through this career path.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I know you're interested in medicine also, but
yes.
If you've seen that, anyone that can be like a preceptor, like a mentor to help me out, or if this is the right forum for me.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, definitely, like everybody here, I'll leave you guys my email address. Definitely, we can talk a little bit more about it because that's like a longer conversation. But what I like about your story is that you're combining something that you already love, and it doesn't matter what it is, and you're using technology to apply it. At this point, I think what you should do is curate a list of all the pharma companies or health tech companies that you think may be addressing this issue, and start emailing them. Start emailing the engineers there, or start emailing even just to get a little bit of information about what they're doing. And the reason why I'm saying that is that if I was to build an app that literally dealt with weather and tech is such a small field that once you start asking around, like everybody knows everybody who's doing a weather app, right? Like the Weather Channel or stuff like that, right? The same thing in farm, the same thing in health, the same thing in sports, the same thing in finance, the same thing in video streaming, right? The more niche you get, the community gets very, very small. So it's very important that you start reaching out to people. And on LinkedIn, on Twitter, make like a whole list of companies and start following them and like start replying. And then asking them for interviews, right? Asking them for interviews. Like, and this is like, okay, so this is like, I know we have like maybe 3 minutes left, but when I say ask for interviews, I literally mean ask, are you interviewing? And just like go on the interview. Doesn't mean that you'll get the job or whatever, but you'll learn so much about that process and what they're doing. The first round of interviews, the company tells you what they are doing to see if you're interested, right?
Okay.
So just get some of those pieces of information. And the last part is to lean into your story. Lean and say like, hey, I'm coming from this background. I'm a teacher. I'm a farmer. I'm a massage therapist. I'm a pharmacist. And I want to add my skills to this. Lean into that. Don't shy away from what you're doing. Add what you're doing and make yourself like very approachable. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I didn't talk about LinkedIn and finding, but thank you. That's very 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 helpful.
Yeah,
no problem.
And I love when people just join Career Karma and like they get to speak to Jarek and other guests. In a second, I'm going to ask Jarek for the best way to stay in touch with him, and so you'll be able to connect with him. But also, you're part of Career Karma now, and so if you have an idea for an app, you don't have to wait until 5 years from now. By the time you go through a boot camp, you get your first job, then you work to start that idea. You have now almost 50 people on this call. And everyone wants to learn either design, engineering, data science. So if you have a dream, take small steps towards that dream and start building things with others on Career Karma. And you'll see how much you learn. You'll also see how much other people around you will try to support you in your dreams. So just keep asking questions like you just did, and don't stop. We do have a few minutes left before we jump into the ending. Jerry, can you talk about the salaries in tech? I think in the intro, when I sent out an email, I mentioned that you're someone who increased your income pretty significantly in about a year. Can you give people an idea of like what can they expect to make in tech? What was it for you? And like how does it feel now that you're working in a job that you always wanted to have?
Oh man, it feels so good, guys. It feels really good. And it's attainable. Like it's not something that you cannot do. You can definitely do this. So the salaries in tech vary from city to city. There are a couple of hubs. San Francisco is definitely a tech hub. New York is a tech hub. Austin is coming up, and Atlanta, a few different places. But you can generally expect a salary around 6 figures as starting out. And some may be a little bit higher, like maybe 120. Some may be a little bit lower, like at 90, 95. But like that's literally how it works. There's also companies that will give you Apple. I can talk about Apple, for example. Apple will start you out basically at $160,000, $170,000, and then give you $50,000 in stock a year. Okay, so like there are companies out there that are willing to invest in you and give you stock. I mean, it's kind of insane when you kind of think about the numbers. But that's why at a certain point it becomes competitive. And what makes it easier is that you're part of Career Karma and that you're part of people. I mean, we literally had a recruiter here on the line from my company, okay? You're talking to people who work at Google, Facebook, and Airbnb, and Microsoft, and Amazon. There's a community around people that are helping you get into these different corporations. It's not about being the best. It's not about being the brightest. It's not even about being the most educated. It's about the person that shows up, about the person that is dedicated, and the person that works hard and thinks with the mind to solve problems. It's not, how can I say, like I don't want to go down this tangent, but a lot of people think that you have to be brilliant to do this. Not necessarily. what you have to be is dedicated, guys. Like, you just have to be dedicated. There's some things that a school or a boot camp can teach you, but a lot of the stuff they can't. And that's really kind of understanding how it feels to get over a failure and keep pushing, right? Get over a rejection letter and keep pushing. Get over something that's really, really tough and then keep pushing. So the salaries are great. You'll be able to take care of your family. They have full benefits. My son is covered with insurance. I have insurance, dental, vision. Some companies give stock options and interest in the company. They give you a computer. I mean, some companies feed you too. So it's really good. It's a really good transition. And I think that everybody will enjoy it.
Thanks, Jarek. Can you hear me, by the way? I just put my headphones on.
Yes.
Can people hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. And I just want to add on the podcast, Jarek also goes to the fact that like to get to this height in terms of your financial security, you actually have to put a lot on the line. And can you talk a little bit about like kind of the feeling not too long ago when your son broke his hand? And
yeah, I know he
talked
broke
a
his
lot
arm.
about it on the podcast, but what was that like in terms of your finances and how does it feel to be in this place now?
No, absolutely. So earlier I alluded to that I went to college, I went to grad school, I went to medical school, and I had been doing that for a while, but I was at a place now where I had a child. I was doing Lambda school, so it was full time. I wasn't employed. I didn't have insurance, and my son broke his arm, and I didn't have enough money to pay for it or to help him. Now he had insurance only with his mom, so he was fine and everything like that. But it really got me. it really frustrated me. It really made me feel like I was on the wrong path. Like I just need to get a job. Like I just need to do something else. And like, it was never going to happen. So I literally faced that head on, like that frustration. And I went harder, guys. Like I literally just went harder because there are no easy ways out of things. You just have to keep on going through and you will see the light at the tunnel. So I went harder. I started to apply myself even better. I emailed more people and I got a job that literally paid me 3.5 times more than I was making before. And the crazy thing about that is that I was frustrated. And there's only a few people, there's 48 people on the line right now, 47. There was only 47 people, if you get my drift, that may understand, but the people around me didn't. They thought I was spinning my wheels. They didn't really understand the tech scene. They didn't really understand what this could offer me. They thought that I wasn't being focused, but I had a dream and I had a goal, right? And I wanted to make sure that I surrounded myself with people that understood my plight. So I told my friends who were in the boot camp and they cheered me on and said, just keep on going, and I got rejection letter after rejection letter after rejection letter. And they put a cast on my son's arm. I'm a physician, so I read the x-rays. I was mad. Like, I can't tell you how angry I was. Like, I just, but that's how life is, guys. Like, you're not always going to have like a beautiful moment at all times, but this is what makes you like the best. This is how marathon runners win marathons. This is how Olympians win the Olympics. Like, it's not what they do on the stage. It's like in the background, training for 4 years and nobody's looking. The frustrations, them going to the gym early, swimming. Think about the gymnasts, the swimmers. I could just go on. So work hard. We're here with you. We're here to cheer you on. And then when you get to the place that you want to be, you understand like there is like at the end of the tunnel. I see you, Ramsey. You're knocking it out over there, bro. There he goes, right? So there you go, man.
Yeah, Jarek, thank you so much again for sharing and being so honest with us. What's the best way for people to stay in touch with you?
Yeah, sure. So the best way to stay in touch, I'm gonna put this in the chat. You can find me on Twitter at JWarrenMD. You can also email me at jerrick.warren@gmail.com, and then LinkedIn. Yep. Jerrick.Warren. So either one of those, fill me up with shoot me an email. We can talk a little bit more about certain things. Your best resource, guys, is definitely Career Karma. Keep on coming to these AMAs. Keep on listening to people from different backgrounds and experiences. Go to meetups, right? There's an app that has meetups everywhere in your city. Get online, become active, Facebook groups and everything like that. Like, just start meeting people and recognizing that you can do this and there is a place for you in this industry.
Thanks, Jarek, and thanks for sharing the contact info. Want to say this again? One sec. Let me move. One sec.
The people at Career Karma working hard, guys. You hear it in the background.
My headphones just died, so I'm moving to the other space. One sec. I just want to say that earlier in the call, I asked how many people. Can you guys hear me? How many people emailed our previous guest? And I'm going to ask the same question a week from now, right? Because Jarek, he dropped his email on here. He dropped his LinkedIn. If this is your first week on Career Karma, Jarek could be the first person you email to just introduce yourself. And he knows what it's like to be a dad, going through a boot camp, struggling, learning how to code, almost giving up, not quitting. So use it as an opportunity. And I also want to say that Jarek is also a close friend of ours. This whole career transition for him brought us all together, closer together. And he's gonna do amazing things in the future. So, every single person on here, right? All of you are here, and you could have been somewhere else, doing something more fun. You could have been watching TV. Could have been hanging out with your friends, playing video games, but you decided to do this because you might be tired of your job now. You might have goals and dreams, and there's 46 people now who have the same dreams as you. So find those people on the app, connect with them, start giving back to others. Don't wait until you're in a job to help others and work together. And it's a matter of time. As long as you keep going, in a year from now, you're going to be in Jarek's seat giving advice to others. So thank you so much, Jarek, for joining us. Let's give him a round of applause.
No, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
No problem. No problem.
Jarek. And I also want to say, in addition to that,
thank you, Jarek.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jarek, thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
No problem.
I want to say, in addition to that, one of the things that Jarek did when he first joined.
Thank you, Jarek.
When Jarek joined Career Karma was Ruben used to do one-on-one phone calls back in the day, and he used to do 30 or 40 of them a day when people used to join Career Karma before our app was there. And that was one of the things that helped Jarek and others figure out what schools to do, how to structure their roadmap, whether they should do full-time or part-time. Well, now that we have career coaches in the app, and I know Shaya, I saw her. Shaya, are you on there? We have Shaya, we have other career coaches from Career Karma who are attending boot camps, who are now helping others behind them get forwards. These coaches are going to be reaching out to you. So when they reach out to you, feel free to ask them what was their personal journey into tech. Why did they choose whatever bootcamp they did? And next week, we also have coaching sessions. There are 10 or 15-minute coaching sessions that you can sign up for. And so I shared a link in the chat, so make sure you take advantage. So the same way how Ruben spoke to Jarek when Jarek first joined Career Karma, now every single one of you can schedule time with a coach to get that personalized guidance. And and I want to just say again, thanks to all the people on the East Coast for staying up this late. And thanks, Jarek, for being so amazing and generous with your time. Let's break it up.
Man, it was a pleasure, guys. Hit me up, man. Hit me up. I'm be telling Timur if you guys hit me up. So y'all better hit me up.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Talk to you later.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Larry, Ryan, Christy, great questions tonight. Courtney, good night, everyone.
I'll be messaging you, Jarek.
Good. Let me know.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Giovanni, I see
I'm
you.
writing you right now.
Good night. Daniel, I see you. Good night, everyone. Let's break in.
That's breaking.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.